Any sinner is capable of being a great saint, and any saint is also capable of being a great sinner. The secret, therefore, of character development is the realization of this power that there is in each and every one of us, for good and for evil. And the good Lord would have us lay hold of what is worst in ourselves. Do not think that people who have virtue and kindness and other great talents just came by these things naturally. They had to work at them very hard.
Welcome. You're with us on Ascend Through Virtue. I'm your host, John Sablon, with my arrow in my quiver. What's going on, son?
How's it going? Your co-host, Keone Sablon.
Good to be here. We are excited for actually this week and next week's segment because we got a dear friend of ours, Rose Sweet, who will be joining us here. I mean, you see her probably on camera now, but before we bring her on officially into this segment, we'll be talking about temperaments, Keone, right? And we've been mentioning this about, you know, with the work we do in Servium Institute, but also as it relates to this program about self-knowledge and the importance of that.
Yeah, self-knowledge in order to pursue self-mastery practically, right? I'm excited to go into temperaments because I've always said it's like know thyself 101. And it's the foundation for us to really intentionally pursue self-mastery. So yeah, I'm really excited to get into this with Rose and go into the deep with this with the listeners. I think it'd be incredibly helpful for them.
Awesome. Before we do that, we just want to give you a couple of updates. We do have a men's conference, the inaugural Arizona Catholic Men's Conference coming up September 27th in Scottsdale, Arizona, hosted by World Ablaze Incorporated, as well as Servium Institute, featuring great speakers like Devin Schott, Jesse Romero, Dr. Dan Schneider, Keone Sablon, and yours
truly. Yeah.
So we're super excited about it. We've got men already coming, not just from across the state of Arizona, but also we've got somebody from Idaho coming, Northern California, Southern California, Las Vegas. So obviously men are hungry for an event like this. So we're super excited to step into the breach, into the gap. We've been without a men's conference for roughly about 3 years or so. So we're excited to partner both Servium and World Ablaze to be able to host that. So if anything, find a man that you know, and it's got to be a biological man that you can invite to the conference. And, you know, brother, an uncle, a nephew, whomever it may be, bring somebody with you. Obviously, we're bringing folks from outside of the state, but it'd be great for you to join us. It's going to be a day of sacraments, a day of great talks, a great day of fellowship. And of course, there'll be a little bit of food there. We're going to make you suffer a little bit, but there'll be some food and great vendors that'll be joining us as well. Also, Keone, what do we got going on the coaching front? Anything new on your side?
Yeah, we have a new cohort starting. The start date is set for September 23rd. That is a week from today. So if you're listening live and you're like, I need to grow in virtue practically, go ahead and check out our website, serviuminstitute.com, or you can send us an email, info@serviuminstitute, and we'll see if it's the right fit to help you out right now.
Yeah, and as far as the conference is concerned, you can go to worldablaze.org to get your tickets there, find out more information about how you can join us on September 27th. And as Keone mentioned, this is a live show. We do this every Tuesday at 3:00. If you are somebody who's interested in calling in, that number is 626-655-0612, 626-655-0612. And then the replay is the following Tuesday. So without further ado, I want to bring on to the segment for all 4 segments, actually, my dear friend, sister in Christ, Rose Sweet, author, speaker, sister in Christ extraordinaire. I don't know how many books you're up to now. We're going to be talking about one in particular, the work that you've been doing on temperaments. But how are you doing, dear sister?
I'm doing very well, thanks. And I, when COVID hit and our traveling and speaking kind of dried up, I went full time into coaching from the comfort of my home in my pajamas at the computer, and it's great. I don't ever want to go back. So we were talking before the show that all of us, you guys and I, do the same thing with our clients. We want our clients to begin to know themselves, to go beyond just what's around them in the world and the people in their lives, to go into the interior, because that's where happiness the fruit of happiness will ultimately come, by acquiring virtue, self-mastery, knowing yourself. So Temperaments 101, I love it. Know
Yeah, just
Thyself 101. Yeah.
Yeah.
Know Thyself 101 is just part one of a two series set of shows. But just to go back to when we first met, Rose, I was trying to go back. You were like my fourth episode on True Faith Real Talk, the podcast I started. I think it was back in 2018 or something like that. And then COVID crazy hit, of course. And both of us are in California at that time. But anyway, it's been some time that we've known each other and just kind of really supported each other in ministry. So it's great to have you here and to be on this side of the screen, being able to bring you on again and to talk about something that's kind of near and dear to our hearts. Keone, what excites you about this idea of temperaments as we kick this off with Rose?
Yeah, well, I think this is where it starts to get personal to the listeners, right? We talked the past couple episodes about the faculties of the human person, right? The higher faculties and the lower faculties, and that's what kind of unites us as a species, right? As human beings, we all have those faculties, but we don't all have every temperament. And now we can look at what is your particular temperament, primary and secondary, and it's starting to be like, okay, that's me, for the listeners to be like, those are my set of strengths and even proclivities to weakness. Now the self-mastery can start to really begin, and a deeper level of self-knowledge. So I'm really excited about this, because this is when I even think about, for me, I learned my temperament in college, and it was like, man, I should have known this a long time ago, because I was going through life just like reacting to my weaknesses, and I didn't know it. It's like, dude, you kind of have those tendencies. It would have been a very helpful to know that, early on, so I can start to work with it and even build other habits in response to that. But man, I was reacting for a long time, and thanks be to God that I even caught it in college, right? I have clients that still don't know their temperament. They're in their 50s and 60s. So I'm excited to get into this now so that the listeners can really start to understand what the pathway of virtue looks like for them individually.
So, Rose, if you don't mind kind of giving the listeners an overview, maybe an introduction to it, again, we'll encourage folks to buy Rose's new books published by OSV, My Type of Holiness, Striving for Sainthood with the Temperament God Gave Me. Rose Sweet is a trusted author, an Orthodox sister in Christ. So I'm grateful for you to be here. But can you kind of break it open for some folks who are going, temperament, what does that mean? What are you talking about? What does this all mean? And what are you guys talking in code for?
Well, okay. So we all know the word personality.
Mhm.
So he's outgoing, she's outgoing, he's an introvert, she's an introvert. But really, that's personality is something that we can acquire or develop. It's like a hat or a mask we can put on. But your temperament is the raw material that God gave you from conception, that he intends for you to use on your path to holiness. And it's your hard wiring. It is your reactions, your immediate reactions to life and things around you without even thinking. And it's your natural preferences, and it's your impressions. So in other words, if I react quickly, but will I remember it the next day? Do the impressions stick with me? There's some people who never forget anything, right? That's
I'm
the
one of those,
Okay,
Rose.
right. Hello, Mr. Melancholy. Well,
Yeah.
that is you don't only have a reaction, it sticks with you for a long time. So some
Mhm.
people might have a certain reaction that's similar, but it's out the window an hour from now. So,
Mhm.
you prefer quiet or peace or whatever, and other people are the opposite of you. They want high action activity. There's times that you want that too, but
Mhm.
temperament is your hard wiring. It's a gift from God, and it's a reflection of something of him. Well, look at scripture. We see that God is in the still small voice. He's in the gentleness of nature. He's in the loud crashing boom of the thunder and lightning. So everything that he created is some kind of reflection of something beautiful of him. And we're little chips off the old block, and
Mhm.
we share in some of those beautiful things. And you were given some things that I wasn't given. And
Mhm.
I was given some things that you weren't. And we discovered those together. They're complementary. So your temperament, this was first coined that we know about back 350 years before Jesus was even born. Those smart Greeks, Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, he studied that people when they were sick and in the hospital. Now when you're sick, you're not fake. You're just who you are. In fact, just everything is stripped away. Just the real self will come out. So he noticed in the hospital, all these sick people, there was 4 different types of people. It was so repetitive. He goes, there's something to this. So he began to study and write them down. And so that's where we come up with the 4 classic temperaments. And this is like one of God's patterns. I love this. How many directions are there on the earth? North, south, east, west. 4, right? Okay. Can you go north and south at the same time? No, you cannot. You can't. So north and south are opposites, and east and west are opposites. But you can go northeast and southwest. So it's a certain, if we look at these, and Hildegard of Bingen was one of the beautiful saints and mystics who discovered these patterns of 4 that God had in the 4 seasons, the 4 directions, and the 4 temperaments. So if we remember the north, south, east, west thing, temperaments come in 2 pairs of opposites. And I'm 2, and I'm not the other 2. But when I was growing up like you, Keone, I was going around trying to make everybody like me. What's wrong with you people?
Mhm.
You know, and it was arrogant and prideful and confusing and hurtful. And when I realized that they were just a different temperament and they maybe actually were superior to me in some ways, that they had gifts that I didn't have, you know, I was like, Lou.
Yeah, it's like your mind's blown when you find this out. So a quick overview. We'll get into this more after the break with Rose Sweet, our guest, to talk about temperaments that God gave us. Now, Know Thyself 101, Send Through Virtue. We'll see you after the break.
Here's a great way to support Virgin Most Powerful Radio. If you have an old car, you want to get rid of motorcycle, RV, or both, simply call 855-500-7433. And when they sell that vehicle, a portion of that money comes right back to support Virgin Most Powerful Radio. It's an easy way to do it. I want to thank you for it. Call 855-500-7433. God love you and your family.
This is a catechetical minute from Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Just as the gestation of our first birth took place in water, so the water of baptism truly signifies that our birth in the divine life is given to us in the Holy Spirit. Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 694. The most basic elements of human life are often the actual tools that God uses in our relationship with Him. Water is one such element God has used, from the flood, to the Red Sea, to the Jordan River. Father, you have made all things with this in mind. May we recognize these signs of your love in creation.
This has been a catechetical minute from Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Terry Barber here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. I'm encouraging people to support realestateforlife.org. They'll have a pro-life agent for you. California's laws for the family are really bad. If you have a young family and you can afford to get out of California, get out and make a new life somewhere where you're not going to have the repressive laws. For example, if your son wants to change his sex and you don't want that to happen, the school can take your child away from you. Yes, that's how bad it is, folks. That's why I'm encouraging you to go to realestateforlife.org. God bless you for supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Know thyself, and thy faults will not master thee. Words from the great Saint Augustine, who knows a little bit about faults and certain proclivity towards certain things in life. We are joined by a great guest of ours, Rose Sweet, for this part one of Know Thyself. What are the temperaments that God gave you? And we're excited to have Rose here. We were just getting into the first segment on the overview, kind of the history behind the temperament. So, Rose, where do we want to pick it up from here?
Well, we talked about the four temperaments, the four classic temperaments. They've been used by saints and mystics in the Catholic Church for centuries as a spiritual aid, and we're using it today. And we know it's very beneficial. So today we're going to talk about the first set of opposites, two of the four classic temperaments, and that is an extrovert and an introvert. So the extroverted choleric is, and some people say choleric, and it grates my nerves, but I looked up in the dictionary one time and both are acceptable. But I learned this, Keone, in high school in the 60s. So, I'm sticking with the choleric.
Yeah.
So the choleric is a natural extrovert. We can all be extroverted when we choose. And I want to clarify that because introverts can be extroverted, but when they first scope things out and make sure it's safe or they know what's going on, and then watch out because they can be just as loud and bossy and take charges as the rest of them. But this is what your natural tendency is. The choleric just is born to pop out of their crib and put their hands on their hip and take over the family. They're a natural leader. And again, everybody can be a good leader, but the choleric likes to, charge ahead. They're very independent. And, in the book, I have lots of lists of their strengths, and they are quick to action. They're outspoken. They usually have a voice that can start out soft, but when they get revved up, it gets pretty loud. They love challenges. They're intense, high energy. They're level-headed. They have a real gift of seeing the big picture and seeing things clearly and not getting, dragged down into the details. They tend to be unemotional in the good way, that they're sticking with their intellect, when necessary. They're strong, gutsy, daring, challenging, resourceful, self-reliant, positive, people-oriented, a natural delegator, dauntless, confident, decisive, motivator, take charge, level-headed, chief, productive, bold, sometimes abrupt, harsh, or cold. Now, in our world, does that sound masculine or feminine?
Pretty masculine.
I'm going to go with masculine, Rose.
Okay, but it's not, because I am a choleric, by nature. But the world has reduced those words that without thinking things through carefully, they say, well, that's masculine. So a lot of men, when they come to my temperament trainings or my classes, well, that's me, because I'm take charge and I'm the man of the house and I'm the boss. And it's like, just keep listening. So this is a choleric can be male or female. It's the temperament that God gave you. And I like to be the boss, but that used to get me in trouble because without maturity and self-mastery and wisdom and grace, I thought everybody needed to be like me. And I was out there shaping everybody up and straightening everything and telling them what for. And, I hurt other people and I hurt myself in the process. So it's the choleric can fall flat on their face without that wisdom and maturity and become a brute and a bully and bossy. And again, this is where now we get to the list of the weaknesses of that particular temperament. In its purity, the choleric is a beautiful thing with no weaknesses. Would you guys agree with that?
I'm a little biased, Rose, because I'm a choleric. So
I know you are.
I feel like I would, naturally go, yeah, of course. Yeah, it sounds like perfection, really.
Okay, so here's what happens when the weaknesses aren't part of the temperament as such, like we have strengths and weaknesses. It is you are made beautifully and perfect, but when ego, fear, trauma, unhealed wounds come in, now the natural beautiful tendency to see out and to take charge and to lead people becomes brutish, bossy, and bowling them right over, because you are, you've got ego needs and Anxiety. So it's the trauma, the fear, and the unhealed wounds that we carry, the broken sin nature that is revealed through each of the 4 temperaments in the weaknesses. But God didn't make us to have weaknesses. Does that
You
make
bring up
sense?
yeah, oh, absolutely. So speaking from that place, because I think, and this would, maybe we can have a little bit of a discussion here, because as a choleric who comes from a lot of brokenness and trauma and abuse, there tends to be this ongoing opportunity, let's just call it that, for me to grow in the virtue, specifically in patience and humility, right? So I'm quick to, I mean, and I want to hear what you have to say about this, Rose, and obviously you as well, Kennedy. But the 2 things that I battle with as a choleric with all that brokenness is pride and anger, and it seems almost compounded by the things that we go through. And I think this kind of lends itself to what we do at Servium, Keone, when we talk about bringing in the temperament assessment along with the things of like adverse childhood experiences, as well as family of origin, to be able to understand the full person that we're dealing with in front of us that we're coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's I like what Rose said about, there's no natural weaknesses per se, right? You have a set of strengths, and it's our job to perfect those strengths, to exercise them in the right way at the right time, given the right circumstance, right? This is where prudence governs this, right? To be able to say, okay, here's what I should do, here's how I should leverage this strength. But if it goes unmoderated, well, then I'm bossy to someone who I don't have any authority over. I have no influence over it. Someone I don't even know, right? I'm just bossing them around online on social media, commenting to them because they just need to know that I know better, right? And so we misuse a strength that we have, and it becomes damaging. Like Rose was saying, it can even hurt relationships, and you see this a lot, right? And so what was helpful for me, and we'll save my own story for maybe the next episode, but what's helpful is in recognizing that you look at where you're struggling, where you have caused damage, and then you say, okay, what is this strength underneath that you can actually start to perfect, you can moderate, you can use in its proper form, and then watch what could happen, because those come natural to you. But when you now direct it and guide it, now there's beautiful things that you can do with it, rather than reacting to those tendencies in ways that aren't maybe proper or moderate, and it causes a lot of trouble and hurt and wounds along the way for yourself and those around you.
That's exactly right. And talking about anger, here's the other truth. Everybody gets angry. Let's say we're all standing in a store and our oldest beautiful child is there in the store, and somebody comes along and slaps all our kids across the face. We'd all be angry, right? It's not just not the choleric that gets angry.
Yeah.
But how do we handle the anger? So the choleric is an extrovert. So that means quick and exterior. That means you're going to see it, you're going to hear it, you're going to feel it, right? And they spring to action quickly. The opposite, or different temperaments, would also be angry, but they'd stop and think for a minute. Wait a minute, if I kill that person that slapped my kid, I might go to jail. So they're assessing and analyzing a split second longer, which sometimes is smarter than the choleric who leapt out with their gun and blew the guy's head off or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, we do struggle with anger as cholerics, but so do the others. But they tend to either repress it, hold it back, think about it a little more, dwell on it, let it grow into resentment, water it, flower it, prune it, So that's the thing that I love. This is a great, when you understand these properly, it's not just a little pop psychology quiz. It really takes you to the great equalizer. We are all different, but we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
We can all be a leader. We can all want to be the life of the party. Even an introvert. If there's only 3 or 4 people and they're all people the introvert knows, they love to be the life of the party, right? But not when there's 25 people and they're all strangers. So, we need to go deeper with this. So what else, what do you think is another choleric weakness, since you're going to be so honest about this, John?
I mean, compassion, empathy.
I know we're cold, aren't we?
I mean, if we're just going to put it out there, Rose, to all the listeners, yeah, what is, yeah.
No,
Inaction. It's
Okay.
the response to inaction is a favorite of mine watching. If
God,
someone
that's the worst.
if someone he delegates doesn't do something, you're going to hear it.
That triggers me too. It's like, did you not hear me? I'm not going
Yeah.
to say it 10 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other temperaments will say it 10 times with a little smile, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
get out of my way. He needs to listen. She needs to listen. Yeah, inaction is horrible because we pride ourselves. We look in the mirror and we realize when somebody gives me a job, I'm on it. And we go out there and we move and we accomplish and we build and we do all these things quickly and beautifully, and then we look around and go, what's wrong with you guys? So that's the problem. And I remember, as a choleric, I married the opposite of I married a phlegmatic man, very strong, very masculine, but God, he moved like molasses in winter. I never saw him run. It's in the book. I saw my husband run once in his life. Me, I'm like a pinball around the house. Bing, 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 right? I know you're laughing, John, because you totally relate, right? And Kiana, you know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I work with couples. A lot of the couples, it's the the choleric wife and the
You
phlegmatic
can say
husband.
choleric.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, I want to know what's been said for decades, centuries, even. So, yeah, the choleric wife and phlegmatic husband is very common in couples counseling. Back in my
Yes.
more counseling emphasis,
Yes.
it really brings out the sins of Adam and Eve, and you see it, you see it right in front of you. You're like, wow, there it is. There's the fall of Adam and Eve, right there in front of us.
That's a very good point, because the serpent comes down, and we assume that Adam was also standing there. I mean, where else was he, right? And he says the apple, and she's quick to grab, quick to grasp, extroverted, take charge, right? And he's like, Adam is like, I better not say anything. She might get mad at me. He's watching, and he's not taking action, right? So there it is. You're exactly right. There's nothing new under the sun.
Nope.
So my answer to my coaching clients that come with that same thing is, choleric, whoever you are, the male or the female, you have to step back and create room for that person to do what they're supposed to do. And give them 5 more minutes than you would give yourself, at least, please. And then the other one, the phlegmatic, you have to take action. And if you can't communicate it to the other person, why it's going to take you a little longer, or figure out what's going on with you, let's fix it. So we're not going to try to change the other to be different, but to respect each other and to listen to each other and honor each other.
Yeah, what a great breakdown for those of you out there who resonate or know that you are a choleric. There's hope for us on the other side with grace building upon virtue. So great conversation. We're going to get into the next temperament after the break with Rose Sweet.
Here's a great way to support Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Do you have an old car you want to get rid of, motorcycle, RV, or boat? Simply call 855-500-7433, and when they sell that vehicle, a portion of that money comes right back to support Virgin Most Powerful Radio. It's an easy way to do it. I want to thank you for it. Call 855-500-7433. God love you and your family.
This is a catechetical minute from Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Just as the gestation of our first birth took place in water, so the water of baptism truly signifies that our birth in the divine life is given to us in the Holy Spirit. Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 694. The most basic elements of human life are often the actual tools that God uses in our relationship with Him. Water is one such element God has used, from the flood, to the Red Sea, to the Jordan River. Father, you have made all things with this in mind. May we recognize these signs of your love in creation.
This has been a catechetical minute from Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
Terry Barber here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. I'm encouraging people to support realestateforlife.org. They'll have a pro-life agent for you. California's laws for the family are really bad. If you have a young family and you can afford to get out of California, get out and make a new life somewhere where you're not going to have the repressive laws. For example, if your son wants to change his sex and you don't want that to happen, the school can take your child away from you. Yes, that's how bad it is, folks. That's why I'm encouraging you to go to realestateforlife.org. God bless you for supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
You are here on Ascend Through Virtue, where we attack vice one virtue at a time. Actually, sometimes in bunches. Who am I kidding? We are here with our good friend Rose Sweet. You can find her at rosesweet.com. You can get her information, get her book. We're talking about, we're trying to break open the temperaments. We're not going to do it justice, even in 2 full segments. But Rose, before the break, we were talking about, that the greatest temperament, I think, is what you were saying was the choleric. Or maybe I'm just sorry.
No, I agree. I totally agree. Don't look at Keone. Don't look at his face. Just ignore him. Right?
So we were talking about the choleric and obviously some of the strengths and obviously some of the weaknesses that can prevent or present itself when it comes to sin. Is it naturally to take the opposite? And we kind of were having a little bit of that discussion, especially when Keone was talking about some of the couples that we see when you see the opposites. But where do you want to go from there? We've got the choleric as one of the extroverted temperaments. Where shall we venture next?
Well, today let's talk about the opposite.
Okay.
Of the choleric. You can't be both of these. When you're listening and you think, well, I'm this and I'm that. No, you can't go north and south at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite is the peaceful phlegmatic. And I'm going to just say from the very beginning, I've gotten so many comments from people over when this book came out saying, thank you for properly representing and building up the phlegmatic. Because in the past, a lot of people who teach temperaments, the phlegmatic is lazy, slow, couch potato, timid, shy, introverted, hesitant, and I wouldn't want to be phlegmatic either. Are you kidding me? But the beautiful thing is, as we talked about earlier, those are weaknesses that are brought about by unhealed trauma, wounds, immaturity, sinfulness, all that stuff. Let's talk about the strengths of the natural phlegmatic, who's opposite of the choleric. They are careful. So using that ridiculous example that came out of my mouth earlier about somebody slapping our kid in the grocery store, the choleric would be right on it. But maybe that's not the smartest thing to do. It might seem like that, but maybe the phlegmatic who held back for a minute and observed, looked who was in the store, what was going on, how their kid was, just for those few seconds of observing and analyzing, they could move in more slowly and do a more careful and thoughtful response to that situation. And I remember this happened to me. I'll never forget this. Years and years and years ago, my mom got Alzheimer's. And my husband and I were at dinner with my dad and the 4 of us, and Mom got up to go to the bathroom and never came back. And we were worried about her. So we walked around this big Marriott resort for a long time looking for my mom. And I was getting worked up. Dad's getting worked up, choleric dad, getting all worked up. But my phlegmatic husband, who was a fireman, who was used to dealing with trauma and high emotion, he was being very patient. And when we finally found my mom, she was sitting on a bench or something, smoking a cigarette, and there was blood coming down her. She'd tripped or fallen. And I was like, so my dad and I rush up to Mom, and we're in her face going, we're like, Mom, what happened? Where were you? What's going on? The shield went up, the phlegmatic shield to protect him from the harsh choleric coming at her. And she just went stone face. And I watched my husband just move to her side and lean in and say, how are you doing? What can I do for you? Slow, quiet, patient. And she turned and she looked at him and she started to talk to him, and he helped her out. And I go, oh man, look at us 2 cholerics. We're idiots. We are functioning out of our own temperament and not into the temperament of the person we're trying to help. And it really struck me. And I learned, that's another thing I learned, is that most policemen and firemen, thing that we think are big tough guys, right, are peaceful phlegmatics because they're balanced, steady, persistent, calm under fire, steady like a rock, careful, respectful, supportive, encouraging, servant-hearted, patient, obliging, friendly, diplomatic. Phlegmatics are the best diplomats ever. Consistent, inoffensive, demure, mediators, tolerant, lenient, contented, balanced. The phlegmatics hold the world together. Let me just say that again. Phlegmatics hold the world together. But when you just come across and see the words like careful, kind, gentle, supportive, obliging, does that sound male, masculine, or feminine?
Or
It sounds
feminine.
feminine. So a lot of men, again, when they're taking the test or hearing this thing, oh, no, that's, I'm the high energy, loud, take charge, daring, I'm like, no, you're a beautiful, powerful, stable, steady, phlegmatic, manly man. Like our Pope. Our Pope Leo is a phlegmatic with a combination with melancholy. He's the leader of the church in this world. He's the biggest leader in our church. And he's not a choleric. Donald Trump obviously is a choleric. We know that. And that's where a lot of people, he triggers the phlegmatics. And most people have some phlegmatic in them because he's functioning a lot of the times, in his harsh, get her done, get her done, get her done, like Dad and I were doing with Mom. Trying to get the job done, task-oriented and less people-oriented, certainly. And it's not a political thing. It's just a temperament thing. I did vote for him, and I like everything he's doing. So, but there you go. So the phlegmatic is the perfect foil, the perfect helpmeet, the perfect everything for the opposite choleric. If the choleric will say, I need somebody to say, slow down, honey, slow down. Hang on, let's think about this just for, what do you mean I don't need to slow down? I know everything I need to know, And so that's what's at play, like you were saying, Keone, with the choleric and the phlegmatic. They will butt heads if there's fear, anxiety, ego, immaturity, and unhealed wounds. So those of us who are working in the business that we're working, we have a lot of work to do. And it's not really in the temperament, it's in the unhealed interior, but it will show up through the temperament.
Right. Right. Where you see the tendency play out in a way it wasn't designed to play out for in a harmful way, either in the relationship or for the person interiorly or for the relationship or someone else. And I think in watching my phlegmatic clients, because I've worked a lot more now with men, and watching them operate, there is a steadiness to them that is it can be very comforting. Like, okay,
Yes.
let's stay the course because the phlegmatic is less likely to be rocked by something that happens. A little change, a bump in the road. They might notice it, but they're less likely to go into panic mode because that's just not natural to them to go into panic. And again, there's some certain things where they may not respond quickly and maybe make a change to course correct, but there's a natural steadiness that I think for me, that's more melancholy, and we'll get into that, next episode. To look at that steadiness, it is a breath of fresh air, and that's probably why your mom leaned to him and said, "No, I think I'm going to talk to this guy," right? Because there is a steadiness when maybe physically and environmentally it's chaos, right? And so looking to that phlegmatic as that almost like secure base, if you will, it is incredibly helpful when it's utilized properly.
That's exactly right. And I like the word comforting, that it is comforting. And here's another, and I don't mean to be getting political, but I'm just going to, Charlie Kirk is a phlegmatic, melancholy man. He is outspoken. We're watching him on the campus taking charge, and but he's not choleric. If you watch carefully, his speech is measured. It's quick because he's confident. When a phlegmatic knows what they know, they can look just like a choleric because they're on track and nobody's going to budge him off that track. They're real persistent that way. But he never raises his voice. And when people insult him, it kind of goes over his head. You just watch carefully through the temperaments again and watch. He's phlegmatic, steady, calm, stable, but because he's mature and he's well formed and he's virtuous, trying to live a life of virtue, and that brings the power out of the phlegmatic that can be mistaken for choleric, but it's the beauty of the purified phlegmatic. I love it.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, I wouldn't even. When you look at it from the outside, right? It's like, oh yeah, this dude is a choleric. He's there getting stuff done. Yeah, but now that you say that, when you look at his podcasts, right? When he's not in a debate, everything he's saying, it's very measured. You can tell he thinks deeply. He's obviously he was very well formed. I mean, he read books after book. But yeah, when people challenged him, you would expect the choleric to be quick to get offended, or now their voice starts to. I don't know if I've ever seen that for him.
Good observation. Because somebody asked me, and I started watching, and I had to watch pretty carefully. And then you watch his body language. It's this funny thing that has been around for a long time, that phlegmatics would rather lean than stand. They would rather sit than lean, and they would rather lie down than sit. They're just relax. They bring peace. They're relaxing to be around, right? Watch Charlie when he's talking to different people. Well, I just saw him recently. He was standing at a debate table, and his legs were kind of it wasn't a choleric bull stand, And there's other little physical things. When you study this, and you guys have done this, you start to look for the little physical signs too of the peaceful, calm, stable comfort, as you said. I love this stuff. It's just fascinating.
And it's so important for us to know, right? Like what you said earlier is we all experience like these emotions, whether it's anger or delight, right? Or sorrow. And that's what connects us as humans. That's why we talked even before in previous episodes about the structure of man, our nature that unites us, body and soul. But how we manifest it is different. And leveraging those manifestations in their virtuous way to reflect God in the world is a huge gift that most of us aren't intentionally using.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we're learning about ourselves here on this part 1 of Know Thyself with Rose Sweet. You can find her at rosesweet.com. We're going to wrap this up and talk about some practical insights that Rose can help us understand about the temperaments God gave us. See you at the next break.
Hebrews 11:3 says, "By faith we come to understand." According to St. Augustine, understanding is the reward of faith. Therefore, seek not to understand that you may believe, but believe that you may understand. May God grant us a strong living faith in Him and His divine plan of salvation, and help us to believe so that we may understand.
Logan, what has Virgin Most Powerful Radio done for you?
Virgin Most Powerful Radio, I gotta say, I've been a listener for about a year now, and it's really helped me grow closer to my faith and the fact that I'm listening and I'm getting unsugar-coated, clear, charity with clarity Catholicism. And it has really helped me even, grow so much deeper in my faith as a young man and discern the priesthood and have a love for Jesus Christ. And this is so seen on the Terry and Jesse show on Virgin Most Powerful, the unsugar-coated, clear truth of our Catholic faith that is so lacking today. It's almost like the Terry and Jesse show. It's the orange juice Catholicism. It's filling things up. I just need to give them a shout out, my praise. I'm just so appreciative. It just really helps me, and I know people want to hear this. It inspires me to want to speak it, and it inspires me to even go as far as discerning the priesthood to think I should speak this. We need to stand up for our beautiful faith. This is the unsugar-coated beauty, and this is just what I've seen on the Terry and Jesse show. I encourage listeners to start donating and support this cause. It has just truly impacted my life, and I just want to give it some praise to it.
Terry Barber here at Virgin Most Powerful Radio. I'm encouraging people to support realestateforlife.org. They'll have a pro-life agent for you. California's laws for the family are really bad. If you have a young family and you can afford to get out of California, get out and make a new life somewhere where you're not going to have the repressive laws. For example, if your son wants to change his sex and you don't want that to happen, the school can take your child away from you. Yes, that's how bad it is, folks. That's why I'm encouraging you to go to realestateforlife.org. God bless you for supporting Virgin Most Powerful Radio.
We are back on Ascent Through Virtue. We were just wrapping up the conversation about the phlegmatic temperament, and we learned about the choleric at the top, or the second segment, obviously the overviews. And Rose, anything else to say about the peaceful, stable? I can't remember the other adjectives
Come
you
on,
used.
put some energy into that. Don't be sarcastic. I'll come over there and slap you.
There's that choleric in me again, just over there being condescending. No. Anything else to say about the phlegmatic? I think it's very important because I think why are they often misunderstood? Because obviously we've been using the wrong labels for those of us who are familiar with temperaments in that way. But any other tidbits of information our listeners should know about the phlegmatic outside of buying Rose's book, again, book that she just released on My Type of Holiness, Striving for Sainthood with the Temperament That God Gave Me.
I think the main difference between the choleric and the phlegmatic is time. And the choleric moves quickly, and sometimes that's warranted, and sometimes it's absolutely not. And we need to give credit where credit is due. The phlegmatic is slow and careful and steady when it needs to be, and that's a virtue. They're not impulsive. They are naturally more measured and careful and steady. And that should be a comfort, like you said, Keone, to all of us. That's why I said they keep all the rest of us from flying off the surface of the earth, and thank you, God, for the beauty of the phlegmatic temperament.
Yeah,
I'd like to think, Pops, it's like when you're in a car, right? And you want to get to the destination, right? You're probably going to floor that car if you could, to get there as quick as possible. And the phlegmatic's like, actually, let's just make sure we go the speed limit so that we don't die on the way to the destination and we don't even make it, right? But in your mind, like, no, I'm going there. We're going to get there as soon as possible in record time, right? But the phlegmatic is able to say, we'll get there. Let's get there safely.
And you're not going to control me. I'm behind the wheel, And again, you can see that that's all ego and fear-based. I don't want you to control me. I don't want, so it's pretty endless, but it's all good.
Well, it's interesting. I always use the one example, Rose, with my wife and I. She's an introvert. She's secondary phlegmatic, but primaries as melancholic. But she'll say to me, hey, she'll we've got like this little coach. She'll touch me. She goes, I'm just thinking out loud. So I don't need you to do anything, right? Because normally if she says something and it's something I had to go buy, I'm on Amazon, it's showing up at the front door before she even finishes. I was thinking about this book and it's already here, so that's the choleric in me that just is moved to action, right? Bias towards action. But this is so important. And perhaps we can talk about some of the practical ways that the choleric and the phlegmatic can kind of work together and help build up those strengths in one another and appreciate those better. Because I think often, as Keone alluded to, and I'm sure you see this in the work that you do, Rose, as a coach, where we see the temperaments at odds with each other, and then it becomes a source of contention and a dysfunction in a marriage and a relationship. Matter of fact, in my own household, before we knew the temperaments, I used to take a lot of things personal as the only choleric in the house, with several introverts, melancholics, phlegmatics. You're like, why aren't you responding the way I'm responding to things? Why aren't you reacting the way I'm reacting to things? And in my pride and in my brokenness, that will lead to hurt relationships. And so this is super, I know we're kidding on certain fronts, but this is absolutely critical to even healthy and ordered relationships. What would you say?
Well, it is, because we all want to feel safe. And if we think some choleric, out of control choleric is right on our tail pushing us, we're going to go slower. We're going to walk slower. We're going to look the other way. We're going to pretend we didn't hear. And again, understanding this, as you said, Keone, know thyself 101. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Remember St. Paul said, I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do what I want to do. so this is part of why are why are we reacting this way? And understanding your temperaments, this is why I dig my heels in, because you're on me and I feel threatened and I need to retain some sense of control. And why, and then like, why am I pushing my husband? Why am I nagging him and saying, why didn't you do this faster? What am I really worried about? Or is it just that and have I decided that my world, I'd be happy and safe if everybody moved and looked and sounded like me, which is pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
there you go. But
Absolutely.
you're right.
Another thing I like to think about when you bring a choleric and a phlegmatic together, well, it doesn't either opposites, but most of the couples I worked with are choleric and phlegmatic. When you recognize that when you are now within the sacrament of marriage, you now were given a battle partner. And it's not the best strategy to go into battle when you both have the same blind spots. Because all it takes is the enemy to expose that one blind spot, and you guys are both right in trouble. But when you both have two different blind spots, one is maybe more and the other one's inclined to something else, when you recognize that, that's the best teammate because now you can actually have one another's back. And when you see that is when the choleric looks at the phlegmatic not as someone who just is lazy, who avoids, who doesn't do what I want them to do, who's always dodging things, but look is the one that I can look to who's going to be steady, who's going to sit and think, who's not going to react to every little thing that's going wrong, right? And the phlegmatic can look to the choleric and say, this is the person who's always going to help lead me to action, to not be prone to just maybe sitting too much in the steadiness to where if I'm not certain, if I'm afraid of what other people are going to think, if peace can be disturbed, that they just kind of, check out or go into their shell, right? That the choleric is going to say, let's move. We can
Right.
move. And now we're working together, perfecting one another. That's what the vocation ought to be. But when you don't know your nature, you don't know your temperament, you don't know your spouse's temperament, you take everything personal. And now we're at odds with each other.
Right.
My
Right.
battle partner becomes the person I'm fighting with,
Right.
which
My
is a
enemy.
complete exactly. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
complete disorder of how it should be. But when you look at it in light of, no, this is my battle partner and your strengths they complement my strengths. Now we're fighting a common enemy. Watch what we can do when we look at it from that way.
One of the things that you made me think that I did with what I do with phlegmatics is to say, okay, it's time to move. But here's the thing: I need to stop and take enough time and ask them this question: what are you worried about if we move?
Mhm.
Well, blah 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 blah. Okay, okay. What if we do this? And you give them a battle plan,
Yep.
and then they'll get up and they'll be by your side, and you'll move together. So the choleric has to slow down and ask the phlegmatic, what are you concerned about? Because they have genuine concerns. They're not stupid.
Mhm.
So they have genuine concerns and we need to listen. And this is what all you got to do. This is what I recommend to my clients. Take the list in my book of all the strengths for each of the temperaments
Mm-hmm.
and look at your spouses and read that and pray with that and go to your spouse and say, I just want to say that I so appreciate the fact that you are, it doesn't matter if you're reading it from a list, it's the truth. And you're beautiful and you're just right for me. And I thank you. And forgive me for all the times I've been a jerk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things I think we want to make sure we call out, especially for the listeners out there, and Keone had alluded to this earlier when he talked about the couples that we both have encountered. I'm sure Rose you dealt with as well, where you have the choleric as the wife and the phlegmatic as the husband, and then the call for the husband to be the spiritual leader of their home, the spiritual head of the home, right? There could be that contention where you see this issue of sin of usurpation, right? That one of the
Yes.
major sins of Eve, and then what seems to be a sin of irresponsibility from Adam kind of transcend into the human nature of the person here on earth. So any thoughts on that, to where we've seen it, where you've seen this this contention and friction within relationships where maybe the man feels like he's not capable or able, because you have the dominant choleric of a spouse doing that, or vice versa. Obviously, any other practical insights or recommendations or guides you can do outside of getting your book and getting to know yourself?
Yes, yes. No, I would say that the choleric, since you're so quick to action, why don't you take the first step? And that means you back off. And if you're the choleric wife, get out of the throne and make room for him to climb up onto it. Now, if you have a wounded boy in your husband who's leading him and all that other stuff, and you vacate the throne to allow him to step up into leadership, and he doesn't, then you have some more work to do, and he has some interior work. But don't get back up on that throne and go, see, I told you, well, I'm just taking over, blah, blah, blah. So cholerics, if you want to be, all that and fast action and take charge, then do it the right way, and leave room for the phlegmatic to deliberately and intentionally move into that place that they need to move into.
And support the phlegmatic along the way, because there's going to be that fear of
Right.
what if you get mad? What if
Right.
I mess up? I want it to be steady. I don't want any boat to be rocked. And so now the choleric who's there ready is going to be able to say, hey, I want you to know, I'm worried about this, and this. Let's keep that in mind as we keep going. Right. And now you're encouraging and offering insight to the phlegmatic who is still leading. You just might see something that he was blind to. Now you're supporting rather than saying, okay, see, you missed that. Right. I don't know why I even let you see the problem. And now we're back to square one. Right.
As a choleric, I've learned to do something that comes very unnaturally. I'm used to telling people what to do. I'm not used to asking questions, but this is a very powerful tool to say to the phlegmatic, and like you were saying, these are some things I think we need to think about that also can sound to the phlegmatic who's been beat to death by you, can still sound like an order. So if you say, what do you think, phlegmatic? What do you think if this happens? Just changing the language a little bit to soften it, not soften it, because it doesn't, sometimes it can't be soft. It's a tough subject. But you speak their language, because each of the 4 temperaments has their own language, and you have to learn to speak their dialect, not yours.
Well, Rose, where can people find out more about what you do, get your book, learn about all the different events? You have a event that you're going to be doing, I think, here with Virgin Most Powerful Radio, the Catholic Family Conference that's coming up November 22nd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so where can people find out more about your book and all the stuff that you're doing for the Lord?
Go to thank you for this. Thank you for asking. It's rosesweet.com, just my name. And I love to help people. And we're thinking about maybe doing some more stuff with temperaments in the future. So hold that thought, right?
That's right. There's a future collab with all that Rose is bringing with regards to temperaments, as well as Servium Institute. Again, rosesweet.com. This is part 1 of Know Thyself, joined by, again, my arrow in my quiver, Keone Sablan, your co-host. And we're glad to have Rose with us. We'll be back next week for another segment. So think about your questions if you're joining us live. But you know how we do it here on Ascend Through Virtue. The path is narrow. We were made for the climb. One virtue at a time. Let's get holy or die trying. God's peace. We'll see you on the next show.
Saint Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great high priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.
Virgin Most Powerful Radio, sharing the gospel with clarity and charity.